when you're in companies and organizations, hopefully your influence matters. But again, there are decision makers. There's so many policies and so on between it. There are relationships. And if all your control is just giving a voice to the situation, sharing your issues and concerns, holding people accountable to the extent that you can, then do that.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Dads on Purpose, the podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ashford, man, and as always, got the big homie KB, Kevin Brigance. How you doing, KB?
What's up, baby? You know, I'm always excited to be on Dads on Purpose podcast, to be here with the family, and we got a special guest. So I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. Yo, we do got a special guest, man. So last week, me and Kev had to hold it down because, life happens, you know what I'm saying? And when you're in the Air Force and, you know what I'm saying, and you got kids, some of your kids might get hurt or you might have to go do a duty or something like that. But, we got Miss Aisha Thomas. Aisha, how you doing?
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here.
Hold on.
That's not.
What?
I need the title. We got to put the title in there. Come on, Josh. Come on, man.
I don't know. Master Chief Gunnery. I don't know.
No. Senior Master Sergeant.
Did you hear her tone? Did you hear it? No.
Put some respect on that.
Because you merge all kinds of military branches together, and it's like, no.
I actually took a name from Halo, the video game.
Oh, so they're doing okay. Yeah, they wrong for that. They need to do better.
Well, no, I did mix a lot of them, but I did. But no disrespect. My bad. I'm sorry. Yo, y'all don't come for me in the comments.
So let's get that title right. What is that title?
So a senior Master Sergeant. It's an E8. So for those that are in different branches of the military, it's an E8. So it's there's 9 ranks within the enlisted side, and I'm at the 8th one. So one more to go. If that's what the Lord wants for me, amen.
And then what we doing after that?
After what? I retire.
So you're a non-commissioned officer, right?
Correct.
So after you go E9, can you switch over to a commission? I don't know how it works.
Well, so the commission officer program is based off of age. So right now, I believe they raise it up to 40 years old. So I could switch over to commission officer at that point, but it's an age thing more. So yeah, as long as you meet the age requirement and the requirement for the job, and you're under 40 and under, you can join.
24, 26. You like 20, 24, 26?
Well, thank you. Okay, I'm not that, but I would say I'm closer to 40. Closer to 40.
Yo, man, I really want to get into this topic. Like, sorry, I'm not trying to rush us, but I love this topic. And y'all have no idea what we're talking about. So that's what makes it even more fun for me. But Aisha is very much certified for this topic. If you don't know, Google her, because she out here teaching businesses how to be 7-8 figure businesses with leadership and stuff like that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what we're gonna say. But listen. So I'm thinking back, man. So when a lot of people don't know, I'm in insurance, right? Like that's my 9-to-5 job, quote unquote. And when I started in insurance, I had a lot of like lower, I don't want to say lower, but newer agents coming to me, like asking me for help and things like that. And I'm like, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to serve. But my thought was always like, why are the older agents not helping them out? Like, why are they coming to me? And it took me a long time to really grasp this fact that like, you don't have to be in a leadership position, quote unquote title, to be a leader. You feel me? And I think that there's a lot of dads out there that can really like that aren't there yet, but really can use some words of encouragement or wisdom. Like how do we take on that role when we don't necessarily have that quote unquote role? You feel me? Right. In business, but also in the household, because let's be real, all dads ain't leading the household.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that one of the things that I always like to do is that I always go all the way back to our worldview. And our worldview is when we were in the bubbles within our households, from when we were babies all the way until we left the home. And of course, that age could vary from a multitude of people.
Yeah.
We've learned about terms, life, people, emotions, elemental P, A, B, C from that bubble. And guess what happens? We leave that bubble, we go to college, we go into corporate, we go into these outside places, and all of that is challenged. A lot of that is either confirmed or challenged. And that's where I like, even when I do a unbiased training about understanding your bias, I always start from that, because those bubbles teach us about people, how to interact. And again, even with leadership, it teaches us what leadership looks like. And if we aren't learning the true definition and understanding what those roles, responsibilities, what leadership actually is, we're going to go out into the world with assumptions and these beliefs that affect us. And now we're like, it's a tug of war, especially when we're in the workplace, because we have all these different people with different worldviews, different experiences, different expectations of you that you aren't even aware of, that you're just struggling because your bubble that you spent most of your time in told you one thing about what a father looks like, what a mama looks like, how kids should be raised, gender roles, leadership. And now it's like, is that accurate? So I always start with people asking them those questions. Where did you learn about leadership? And recognizing that, leadership is more than a role. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be whatever you learned. Leadership is influence. So if you're in a space where you can influence people like your children, influence your little brother, your little sister, you are a leader. And not only that, we're self-leaders first. So we even need to learn how to lead ourselves. So we are all leaders. Because we even have a power of influence to ourselves. So leadership is influence, and it's not necessarily a role or a title.
Man, hold up. She talking too good already. But and so I don't think she understands. I don't think she knows that KB deals a lot with teen fathers. And so you talking real good right now, because I think as a teen father, there's this I don't want to say expectation, but like, you the new kid on the block, like you know what I'm saying? You a young bug, like you can't lead. But when in fact, that's not the truth. And so we have these teen fathers that don't know what it's like to lead, or you know what I'm saying? Like, or understand like how they should lead. And they just kind of sitting back in the cut. Like, so what does that look like for your dads, Kevin?
Well, exactly what my sister just said. We have to understand leadership is influence. And so the problem is that we're not teaching that at a young age. What we're doing is we're feeding our kids these ideas, and we're not teaching them how to learn. We're just feeding them ideas and thoughts, but we're not teaching them critical roles in character and leadership. Leadership is influence. So I put myself back into the school system as an assistant PE coach. And in that position, they were like, hey, we know you have this extensive background in mentoring. So even when we got my first group, I said, hey, what is a good leader? Is anybody in here a leader? They were like, no.
This is what you asked to the kids?
Yes, I'm talking to fifth graders.
Hey, I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page.
No, I'm talking to fifth graders, because remember what I'm saying. I'm saying like we need to start teaching these things at a young age, because our kids aren't bad kids. They're just leading in a bad way. And if I can get my kids to lead in a good way, to start thinking positive about themselves, to learn how good they are, to see how strong they are, then we don't have to teach them leadership when they graduate, when they get their first job. We don't have to send them to a John Maxwell course. We don't have to do all those things. We've already instilled those things in them as students. So when I get my teenage fathers, the first thing we do is, what is your influence? How are you influencing yourself? And how are the people around you influencing you? Because obviously you didn't just go get pregnant. You know, skipping school, you were hanging out, you know, you were doing whatever you did, and the people around you influenced you. So now I have to start teaching you about you. Are you happy with your situation? That's where we start. Like, I think a lot of us don't start there. And so it's very important. And I tell people, you call me Mr. Kevin. Why? Because Mr. means master, and I've mastered myself. I learned who I am. I learned about myself so that now I can influence other people and help build them up. And so we have to really learn about ourselves. We have to start with our kids and help our kids learn about themselves, learn what their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities are, and let them grow in themselves so then they can be a more positive influence to them. I had one session with these kids and the whole school turned around.
Wow.
Aisha, I felt like you was about to jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, because again, no, but it's good to ask those questions because I always lead. So I do a lot of things on emotional intelligence too. So I put up the term, you are emotional. And I ask, when you see this term, what comes to mind? And you hear all this negative banter about what it is, because again, that worldview, those bubbles we were in, taught us that emotions were bad, taught us that in leadership, you don't show emotions, taught us that this is how emotions look, right? We even utilize it to insult people. And I always say, no, we are all emotional. This is what emotions actually shape our actions and behaviors. And people are like, what? Yes. But again, just like he's saying, for our youth, they are functioning, especially middle school is like the most challenging. They're in this transitional phase.
Those are like my least favorite kids.
But it's a transitional phase and they're learning and all their worldviews are being challenged. They're trying to navigate, trying to fit in the expectations of their families, the expectations of other, like they're just trying to navigate all. Yeah. And again, it's so important that we realize that, it's not a role that you're in. Yes, leaders need communication skills. Yes, leaders need to be able to adapt. Yes, leaders need to be able to have a level of people of awareness. So extracting those terms, right, those attributes and helping them develop those skills are what they're going to need, especially when they start getting into their roles. But empowering them to know that they're already leaders. They all have the power to influence other people. And then when you get into the role of leadership, now let's give you some additional tools, information, strategies, so you can show up effectively for your team and the people that are now following your lead.
Yeah.
Yo, that was, y'all just put out like 10 minutes worth of bars on there. I mean, I feel, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's what I love. And Aisha, you're only the second female guest that we've had. But what I've noticed is the female guests, they get right to it, and they be giving us some bars. And so I feel like we need to have more females on the podcast.
You do.
They're really showing up. I'm just saying.
You do.
No, we will. We definitely will. I've got a couple of lineup too to come in. But listen, I think the whole idea of learning how to lead yourself is how can you expound that for us? Because I know for me, I'm just a sponge. I just want to learn how to do things. Man, I'm the one that looks up, like, how do I fold my clothes so they can fit in my closet better? You know what I mean? Like, I'm that's just the kind of person I am. I want to know how to be efficient. I want to know how to be better person. But for someone who's listening to this and we're telling them that they have to lead themselves, what does that look like? Like, what does that, if you were talking to a father right now and saying, he said, like, I want to be a better father. And you're like, okay, you have to lead yourself first. What was the first thing you would give them?
The first thing, like I said, it ties back to EI, self-awareness, right? Becoming more aware of who you are, what your foundation is. So again, as a father, okay, I know that there's certain roles and responsibilities that I need to be aware of based off of the specific needs for that other person that you had that child with, right? I don't know if that person's a single father or not, but if they're co-parenting, let's throw out the expectations that the world has created. Let me also identify what my expectation is of that woman, that person I had a child with, and really sit down and identify, is it aligned with how we're going to raise this child? How we're going to raise this child? Because I think that's the other thing. We are also we already have these ideas of what mommy looks like, what daddy looks like, instead of coming together in that partnership and say, what works for you? Does it work for you to get them on this day and that date? You know what? I can't get them every weekend. I can only get them this weekend because of this. And that doesn't make you a bad father or a bad mother because of this, but coming together and pushing away the expectations and coming together as a team and creating that. And just realizing that we're going to navigate around a world that says that this is how you should be. Mom, dad, those first teachers are going to always push you to go or live your life a certain way, but realize that we have the power to influence change within our households and do things differently because their teaching, listen, y'all, their teaching might have not necessarily been the best, So I
Right.
think it starts with awareness. Awareness is the foundation. Really understanding, okay, how am I showing up in this role?
Yeah.
Why am I not show up effectively in this role? What conversations do I need to have? What healing do I need? What are my struggles? How am I responding? Do I have self-management, emotional management,
That's a
and really
lot of questions.
really becoming more grounded in who you are, understanding who you are, and
Yeah.
then asking yourself or getting the tools that you need to navigate around the world, the expectations, the ideas, and all that. So it really starts first with self-awareness and really getting to know yourself a little bit more. I think that that's powerful, and a lot of people are functioning based off of the masks or the ideas that other people have told us that we need to wear versus truly embracing yourself and now saying,
Everybody
this
not
is
ready
how
for
I'm
this
going.
conversation, Aisha. Everybody,
I get deep, y'all. I get deep.
But here's the thing. Here's what's so dope about this conversation is that, and I did this on purpose, is that all of those questions you ask yourself about leading and being a good partner as a dad, as a spouse, and things like that are the same things that translate to you being a good leader in the workforce, in the workplace.
Yes.
Like it's the same questions, different situations, and I think those are the same questions that help our students as well be leaders in the classroom. I'm like we're making it too hard.
Yeah.
We make it too hard. Being a leader is hard, but the steps aren't that hard. Like it's all the same, and a lot of it has to do with self-evaluation. Like that's step number one. Like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Am I right?
No, you're right. 100%.
I know it.
100%. And the idea of foundations, like what are our values? What are your specific values? Not what people would have put on you, but out of all of these things you are involved in, or all these things you're seeing, we have to start building values for ourselves and building a foundation for ourselves. And I like what you said. I mean, say it again so I won't mess it up.
Aisha. That's a good way. I was pointing to my eyes because that's a good way people start. And then
Aisha. So Aisha said, influence for change. Influence for change. When my teenagers come to me and the baby's not here, they're like, all right, Mr. Kevin, all right, Mr. Kevin, all right, Mr. Kevin. But when the baby gets here, they want to change. And now their development now has an influence because now they want to change the outcome of what their kids' life will be like.
Yes.
And so if there's anything that you need in order for you to get into a place to really deal with yourself, to build a foundation so that you can lead well, think about the change you want in your kids' life. I think that is just so prevalent because I know a lot of fathers want better for their kids, but they don't know where to start. And now we're saying, start with yourself. Let's make sure your foundation is solid. Let's make sure you are good. And you said taking care of you. What are some therapies and what are some things that you need for yourself? And that's key. It's
go ahead, Aisha. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that what you're saying is so important because again, I always go back. That bubble we lived in, we had teachers. Our teachers are in our household. Our teachers were actual teachers that were at our schools. Our teachers were those people in our community, our family members. And now we are entering into a role once you bring a child in where now we're the next teacher. So that child is going to be looking at us to teach them about the world. And again, it's important to really look at the foundation and develop your own values because again, the teaching that young man, that young woman might have experienced might have not been effective. I mean, just think about it. Mental health, that wasn't something that we heard about in our household. There are a lot of things we just never saw, conversation we never had. And now we have a generation that is now talking about different things and really saying, I want to redefine what my household is going to look like because I realize that my worldview is ineffective and I need to unlearn some things and learn the right thing so I can push my children into the next generation being effective leaders themselves. You trying to shed a tear? You shedding a tear on that one?
No, yes, I'm crying. Oh. Go ahead, KB.
So redefining the household. Can you give me a little bit of that? Because I know, what we're saying about redefining the household. And I know sometimes as men, we can be stubborn, you know what I mean? whatever. And we say, and some people teaches us things, but let's clarify. How do we redefine it and be able to communicate how we see the household? Because I think sometimes it's hard for men, and I'm hearing it. It's hard because that's how we were raised. You're a provider, you work hard, you got to be the breadwinner. But now that I want to redefine a household, I'm getting the pushback from that bubble that I grew up in. I'm getting the pushback from the spouse that doesn't see the redefinition of the household. So can you, because you've mentioned it, and I just want a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to first focus on what we can control. So you can control the opinions, the mindset, the input from our family members, but you can't create boundaries. You can't create boundaries and really identify, okay, I don't want to talk about it. Shut down the conversation or recognize this is when it comes to household related issues, I already know my family has one type of worldview. So that's not where you go for advice. That's not who you divulge information to. You need to go to someone that has the understanding to help you pivot towards where you want to go. So that's the blessing about mentors and finding those couples and those that you can look to that can be like, you know what, their relationship makes sense because they have really redefined their relationship. So create boundaries. You stop having conversations with people who don't understand where you're going. Don't have connect with people who can really help you pivot towards this new worldview. The next thing is, again, if you're in partnership, relationship, or you are, you have a spouse or a girlfriend or whatever it is, again, really sitting down and identify, because again, we don't have a lot of these conversations when we get into relationships, right? What are your values? Right. Yeah, exactly. But we don't have conversations like, do you think you want to beat the kids or would you rather have a conversation with them? Do you think that we should do this with the kids or do you think, and it is hard to try to do that later on, but it is possible. So it's starting those conversations and saying, okay, this is how, let's come to a common ground and create a theme within our home of how we're going to navigate, how to parent, how to manage, and how to do leadership in the home. And I have this great friend, like I love her setup because she has really shaped up this idea of gender roles. Like she loves cutting the grass and mowing the lawn. And I'm like, really? You out here? She's like, yeah, I love it. She's like, but when I walk in the house, I'm gonna have a home cooked meal. So they've been able to create and redefine what society has said, and it works for them. And it's okay. And I think the more that we start to undo these expectations of the world or continue to function off of the assumptions of others and start saying, what do I want to do differently in my home and create that and have those conversations, build that, I think you're going to see a lot more people dealing with less stress and the pressure of leading within the home.
Yo, that's real good. And that just took away my whole question, because I was going to ask you about, like, what do you do when someone, like when you want to make the change, but when someone with you, like whether that's your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Or your boss at the job, like you want to make some changes, like you think this is the direction we should go, but everybody ain't on board or they don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, okay, but you got, like you just said, like you have to control what you can control and do what you can do. And then kind of let the rest just play out.
Yeah, or bring in a third party, because sometimes like you can try. I think you definitely want to try with that partner to work on this redefinition process. But if it's not working, bring in a third party. Bring somebody that is mature, they understand it, a family therapist, family counselor, utilize these free resources. And a lot of times that third party that someone has an outside opinion, sometimes they're able to connect, because people have been in situations where just like, I said the same thing last week that this therapist is saying. But for some reason, it coming from a different person, it resonates. And that's okay, because if it's going to get you to the solution that you want and to the peace that you want in your household, if this is something that's going to benefit those children, okay, that's fine. I'm going to let you have that, So I think that we have to also be open to bring in third parties and someone that's an expert, someone that has lived that lifestyle, meaning that they know and have an understanding of what being an effective or redefining the household looks like. And then utilize that person to support you all on that journey of that redefinition.
What do you do though when it's at the office? Because I was gonna say I'm gonna get the insurance bucket, but I don't care. He don't listen to this podcast. So my wife, one of her it's hard. It's not her boss, but it's somebody that she reports to indirectly. He really don't be feeling what women have to say. And long story short is he needs to go. But he reports to somebody else that's above them. And so, but she has to have interaction with this man like every week. And it's very apparent that all of the women in this organization feel the same way about this man. So I'm like, okay, what do you do there when you're trying to be a leader? And kind of, like you said, like you bring in a third party, like, okay, well, what does that look like?
Well, I think that if you have a common theme across the women within the that team or that organization or department, that you all can come together collectively. And I've done this plenty of times in my organization where I've had an issue with someone and I'm like, am I tripping? But then you start hearing it from other people. But coming together and collectively and saying, what are the themes, right? And a lot of times we want to approach things with facts and not solely emotions. Yes, there's an emotional factor to it. Yes, it's important to say, okay, I know how this person makes me feel and how how that feeling affects my performance. But when you're presenting it to leadership and people in that space, you want to also have the facts. So I think collectively they can come together and come up with a strategy. Okay, what has been your experience with Mr. Smith? Okay, this has been my experience. Do you have documentation? Do you have information or just examples of it? Okay, what's the common theme that we see here? Oh, well, he doesn't allow us to do this. There's a lack of progression. Now it's affecting our performance. Right. And by using those key terms, again, this is a company, this is a business. So they do need to hold him accountable if he's making the women in that company not feel welcomed, allowing their voices be heard, or even helping them develop so they can become the next leaders. But it's also good to just come with the facts and the information. And again, share the aspect that is affecting the morale, the performance. And essentially, if that's affecting the morale and the performance, now this is affecting the productivity, which essentially is going to affect the bucks, the money that this company is getting. So framing it in that way is not only allowing them to know this is the emotional turmoil that we're dealing with, but this is also how it's going to affect your company big picture. And warping those two together is a strategic way to bring that point across. And then again, ensuring that the accountability happens. And I always tell people, once you voice your opinion, you follow, we have a thing called chain of command. So before we elevate things to like his boss, we go to them first. Then if there's no remedy there, we go to the next tier and so on and so on. Recognize that when you've done that and there's no change, that it's time to go. And I think for a lot of us, we need to make sure we feel safe in our workplaces. So a lot of people end up staying in places too long. And again, it ties back to relationships. It's so interesting. But sometimes for us, we stay in situations for too long and recognize this place doesn't make me feel safe. My voice isn't heard. So there's no inclusion. There's no equity because this person is affecting me getting to the next leadership level. I need to now transition and go somewhere else that is going to respect me, honor me, and make me feel safe and also develop me as I progress.
How much would have cost us for a corporation? Because that was like a $10,000 ball. Like that just turned somebody's company around.
Yeah, I mean, couple thousand,
It's a tax write-off.
It is. Exactly.
But I love the leadership at the job. And I think what I want to insert is that's why you have to learn how to lead yourself, because you can't effectively, so many of us are in toxic environments, but we can't approach the toxic environment we're in because we're toxic. And what I mean is we're toxic, not that you're just a toxic person, but you're toxic as in you're not good. You're not good. And you are overly emotional and you can't see the facts. And that's when we went back earlier. We're talking about CEOs leading their companies, and they can't lead their companies well because their home life isn't well. So we have to continue as the people in these small roles, because what we said earlier is leadership is influence. And if we see that there's a problem or an issue, we need to influence the change to be made so that we can all be in a healthy, safe space and grow as leaders. And I don't think sometimes we're personally really doing the work ourselves. So it doesn't become, I don't want to use that word, but it doesn't become like a a dunk fest. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
As all the leaders come together. I hate this, and this and this and this. But we need to
Yeah,
get
it's
to the
all
emotions
emotional
out of it.
based.
Yeah, you need to get out that environment first of all, because
exactly. And then the next thing, even if we are fighting and we are developing, if there is no change, leave. I think there's way too many people sitting in situations, whether it's personal, financial, career, like we could go on, and you talking about the change you want, and you ain't seen change in 5 years, and you still anchored. Man, if you don't get up and leave.
Exactly.
that
made me so many times.
That made me think about this comedian. He was just like, yo, we didn't have a building fund for 50 years and they put a doorknob on the church. And it's like, hey, it's time to go. It's time to leave that idea alone, man.
I mean, I think, again, it's back to controlling the controllables. When you're in companies and organizations, hopefully your influence matters. But again, there are decision makers. There's so many policies and so on between it, their relationships. And if all your control is just giving a voice to the situation, sharing your issues and concerns, holding people accountable to the extent that you can, then do that. But again, be open and okay to pivot when it doesn't happen, but don't stay in a role in a position and then you complain the entire time. Just leave. There is a company for you. There's a place for you that they will respect you and they will allow you to have your voice, and it's going to be a safe place. So just go. I mean, I think a lot of people, and I mean, on the flip side too, a lot of people don't voice their opinions because they're afraid of losing their jobs. Again, you have people who have families, they have loved ones, and sometimes they're afraid of conflict because they're afraid of the outcome. But again, that shouldn't prevent you from speaking up. Just do it strategically, where you're not only going in because your emotional turmoil or that effect is important, but you want to also have the facts. And if you can bring it back to give solutions and also talk about how this is going to benefit the big picture of the company, that's a game changer. And a lot of us don't come in with solutions. We just come in with complaints. That's it. So if we combine all those, then you'll see a better outcome.
Yo, you can't be afraid to lose your job. Like my mom used to say back in the day, she was like, I was looking for a job when I found this one. So it is what it is. Aisha, talk to me about leaders and how they set trends. Cause I see them books in the back. I see Trendsetters, 7 steps to radically stand out, and then leaders set trends. Okay. So I need you to talk to me about those, because we talking to a two-time author, 3-time author.
3-time author. I have another book about focus on women and overcoming, seasons where your life is shaken up by breakup, and not just breakup specifically like relationships, but sometimes there's some breakups and some situations we have to navigate with self. So that is my 3rd book as well. Get it on aishathomas.org/shop. But anyway.
I was gonna say we was gonna let you plug that in later, but you can plug it in.
Okay. Go ahead. No, she good.
Just in case.
We gonna come back to it.
But when I talk about trends, right? Like if you think about social media, there's like a trending topic, right? And that typically happens because someone has done something different or crazy, but we want to create new trends. And that's why I say trendsetter, because we want to be able to go into these institutions, companies, or in households and really shake things up and create new trends that's going to benefit that change, that progression, that thing that's going to benefit the change. So that first book that I wrote was talking to youth and really helping them navigate those seasons where they want to be more followers versus learning the power of being a trendsetter. And in order for you to be a trendsetter, it requires you to really see yourself as a leader, develop those gifts and talents that you have, and truly understand that your uniqueness is what the world needs to see, what the world needs to hear, and who you need to be in order for you to set trends. Because think about it. Most of the artists, most of the people they follow, they're trendsetters. Why? Because they've done something different. And some of them are doing some of the same stuff, by the way, but they've been able to do different things.
Ain't nothing new under the sun.
Right. They've been able to kind of just really truly step into maybe what we think is authenticity, but into that gift and talent that they have.
Yeah.
So it was really my tools and my information and my love letter to youth out there to say, you know what, I need you to embrace this uniqueness. And that is a foundation of being a leader. And then taking those gifts, those talents, those tools into the world to create trends. So other people who are following you that you have influence over can now become trendsetters as well. And then this other one, Leader Set Trends, it talks about a lot of the struggles that happens within companies. Why do people leave? Why are they walking away? A lot of companies, again, in households and communities are so used to doing things one way and don't realize that as we look at the different generations, as we look at the changes that are happening in the world, like, you know, we're having conversations about race that, you know, yes, there was a season where we did talk about race, but it's different now, right? And you see some changes happening where there's some changes that are happening with the children that are witnessing what's going on, which is going to have an impact on the next generation. So what can leaders start doing now in companies to recognize they need to stop doing a one size fits all approach to how they lead and start looking at what do the people need? What changes do I need to embed in my company, in my organization, in my institution in order for me to retain teams, create that company loyalty and really pivot towards the future so I can be a long-lasting company. So that's both sides.
Y'all don't miss that bar though. Y'all don't miss that bar because everything she was talking about, she asked the question. She hinted on it earlier, like why are people leaving households? Why are people leaving these relationships? Ash, before you sign them papers, before you walk out that door, like I need you to ask yourself, like, what exactly is it? Why you're leaving? Is it you being selfish, or is it something that really can be changed? Like ask yourself. And I'm geeked up because like every time, like when you're talking about it, it really was like resonating with my soul because I'm such a proponent of people not getting divorced because they don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And so, or people leaving jobs because they don't want to do the work or they don't want to own up to the fact that like, yo, it was your fault. And I think in every situation, even if you're right, you were probably wrong 5%. Like there might have been some, like people need to take ownership in whatever it is, whatever your percentage was, even if your percentage was only 1%. And I'm not talking about playing the woe is me, the blame game or anything like that. But it's just like, even if that other person was really wrong, just be like you constantly trying to get better, trying to get 1% better. It's like, okay, they were wrong, but what could I have done? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, like they're wrong, 100%, 99.9%. It was your fault. But did I have to use that tone? You know what I'm saying? Like,
what lesson could I have learned? And again, you're talking to someone that's divorced, right? And even though I might have had all the reasons to walk away, when I really started to navigate that healing. And that's why, again, it's hard to stop the process of people that have to unpack and heal and grow. I'm in a season of singleness where I'm grateful for it because I've learned so many things. And yes, I had all the right to walk away because it wasn't it wasn't the healthiest. It was really abusive. So I needed to walk away, but I still learned lessons from that relationship. Aisha, what got you into that relationship? There were patterns that were happening prior to that you were seeing yourself in repeated patterns in relationships. So what did that come from? Okay, daddy issues. Okay, what did that come from? Because daddy didn't do this and that. And you know, that's why I say, like peeling back that onion, the more you do that, you start to get to the root cause of what that is. And again, a lot of us put so much energy in our 9-to-5s and you're doing all the leadership development to show up effectively in that role. You'll have the conversations, you'll change, you'll develop in the workplace, but you don't take that same energy at home. So if you take those same principles of communication, of why did the person leave, or what are the patterns that I'm seeing, accountability, if you put that also in that energy in the household, just imagine how that could benefit you leading within the home too. So there's so many correlations with leading in companies and in the household, but for many people, they put so much energy on the outside and the external, and they don't do the same thing on the inside. So I love what you're saying. You can learn a lesson and everything, even if you're 100% right or 99% right, there's always a lesson you can learn. And there's always something that you can take away from that situation. So as you transition into the next one, you can say, okay, I've learned something and I can make sure this doesn't happen next time.
Yeah.
Kev, what? Hold on. 'Cause I got to ask Kev because he be saying I be trying to end the podcast too early. And he like, I got questions. And so KB, is there anything else that we need to ask before we get out of here? Because my kid's about to come home soon, and they're gonna run in here and start yelling.
I like the charge for the CEOs to lead in a different way.
Yeah.
But I need the follow up, right? Don't go and do this whole disc training. You didn't pay $25,000 and $100,000.
Thomas get it to everybody.
but I'm just saying, like, everybody's done these disc trainings. Everybody's done all of these leadership things, but we're not following through to build. It's just like, hey, we did this and it's over with. And that goes back to the household, right? So we're even taking it to the household and saying, hey, we're going to do this to have the change, but there's no follow-up. There's no goal setting. There's no way to make sure that we're actually spending the right time and the energy and the things that we've invested in. And I think that's just one thing that I've heard with that end part of Aisha's
Aisha.
Sorry, see?
It's okay.
I messed it up. But that's just that she should. I've been getting people letting people run away and say their names all jacked up. I wish I had a unique name, but it's Kevin. All right. But I think that is very important. Like, if we're going to do these leadership roles, because I know there's men and fathers on here who are business owners, and they're thinking like, now is the time that we're coming into a new year and we're wanting to redevelop our business or being in entrepreneurship and leading. Like, don't
need to redevelop that household too.
Yes, don't redevelop the household and don't just spend your money in these investments, but don't follow through and don't follow up with it. Like, follow it from beginning all the way to end and get you a coach if you need to. We got one right here.
Big facts.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, I mean, I think it's so important to recognize that every role, it's like every role comes with expectations or responsibility. So have you truly defined, do you have role awareness? Do you know what all hats you wear, right? Father, business person, you're a leader in a company, you are a family member, a brother. What comes with each one of those roles? Okay. And now what are the expectations that those individuals have for you? Because a lot of people have expectations of others and you haven't even told the person the expectation you have of them. Is it even realistic? Oh, you expected me to do this? So let's get that clarity as well. And then figure out each one of these roles is like a package deal. How can I make sure that I'm pouring energy into each one of these buckets to make sure I'm effective in each one? And also realize that, yes, are there going to be seasons where you fall short? Yes, it's going to happen. You aren't perfect.
Say that again.
Okay, so it's going to happen. There are going to be seasons where you fall off. It's natural. It's going to happen. But once you have that awareness, do your part so you can pour into that bucket and get yourself back, back floating again, right? Or at least on the boat. Get your foot on the boat at least. But yeah, there's no perfection after this. So after you get all these tools, this information, it does not mean that tomorrow you're going to be the best father or the best business person or the best leader. But what you can do is start taking the steps towards creating those individual goals in those buckets and just taking it one step at a time and being proactive and making the change necessary to show up effectively in each one of those.
Yo, that role awareness, that's something we don't really hear a lot about. Did you make that up?
No, I didn't. It's part of some of my training. So I didn't make it up.
Oh, okay.
I just add a little seasoning to it, okay?
But I'm saying, like, role awareness, that's something that we really don't talk about and really get communicated. And like you said, setting expectations as well. Like, okay, what are my roles? And then talking to someone else, like, okay, this is what I'm expecting of you. And man, again, going back to the families and the relationships and things like that, like that's the reason why a lot of these relationships are failing is because you haven't given someone the expectations of what you expect them to do. Like, you saw what your mama did, and so now you want your wife to do that same thing, but she grew up on the east side, and you from the south side, and they did a little things different on that side, and now you mad because she ain't making your grits the same way that your mom. And you know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. But no, I mean, I'm being funny, but I'm being serious. Like, I think that expectation, setting the expectation or having that conversation of expectation, man, are big. And that's where a lot of us miss that in the relationships and in our jobs. Because the jobs, they give you the description of the job, but that don't mean that that's what the expectation of the job is. Because you know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing. Real quick, ask that question. Every interview, they tend to ask, "Do you have any questions for us?" And I sit back and I hear people say no, but you know that you got questions. Hey, if I manage, are there opportunities for me to develop? How long does it typically take most leaders to get to the next tier? Like, you know what your goal is to when you come into this company, but you don't ask the questions. You don't ask those questions at the end to really, again, know what the expectation is of you. And I think, like you said, the more we do that and sit down and have those conversations, the more we can get to the reality, like, that's your expectation of me. Is there a plan B? Is there another way we can pivot this? If this answer is no, then again, it's now determining, how you want to pivot moving forward.
That's good.
Hey, y'all.
Go ahead, KB.
Hey. Y'all need to listen to this podcast at least 20 times. Like, 20 times? This is some solid. Like, I've gotten a lot of my background in mentoring. It's mentoring, right? So it's leadership development ultimately. So everything that Aisha is saying is on point. Everything that Aisha is saying is on point. Like, the roles I was on Instagram Live talking to fathers, and that's what we were talking about. Like, what roles do you play? Like, you're a father, you're a husband, you're somebody's son. You still dealing with that. You know what I mean? Like, what roles are you playing? Like, these are just some genuine nuggets that, to be honest, I wasn't exposed to in the Black community. I had to step out of my community to get this, but now I'm starting to see it flow back into our communities. But we need to really, really listen to this, try to take nuggets of this and apply it so that we can see a true change in our communities, like in our workplaces, because we're sometimes the bigger influence. Like, the decisions are made on how we react. You know what I mean? Like,
and you know what? We talk loud anyway, so they're gonna hear us anyway. Yo, Aisha, before we get out of here, final words, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from the overarching connection with what we talked about, it starts with recognizing that our worldviews might be tainted. So we need to really start going on a journey of unlearning some new things and learning new things. So be open to other conversations, be open to talk to people who are doing things differently, be open to just learning more, and then figuring how does it fit my values, my belief? How does it fit this relationship? How will it benefit the family? How will it benefit my future? And merging all that together. And of course, you're going to have naysayers or people who don't necessarily support you, and that's okay. But you have the power to control the controllable. So create those boundaries, create that system within that family, within that business, within that professional space, and move forward based off of what's going to benefit your family, your business, your team. Move forward in the positive change towards that. So the more that we start to learn more, unlearn, really start implementing and taking action, and start biting away at that change little by little, the more you're going to see more positive outcomes in those different areas.
Mic drop. KB, what you got, man? What you got for the people? Oh, you got nothing? Okay.
She said it all, bro. Now, the only thing I have is leadership is influence, but leadership starts with you. And if you really want to become a great leader, because leader has nothing to do with titles, it has to do with leading yourself. Learn how to lead yourself first. If you learn how to lead yourself first, everything else will fall into place, and you will be able to interview the interviewer. And that's what I heard when she said, when you're in the interview, they ask you questions, you need to interview them and see even if that's the company you want to be with. You need to interview her to make sure that's the person you want to have a kid with. You need to interview, you know what I mean? Like, but we can't interview people when it took me being in a long-term relationship to know what I didn't want. So when the next person came, the interview was strict. It was like, look, I don't want this. We're not going to do that. And look, we married for going on 13 years this month. So you know what I mean? Like, I had to understand who I am, what I needed in order for the person to understand who I am and what they need. And that's the same for your kid. The last little nugget I have is help your child understand who they are. And when they tell you what they need, don't shut it down. See how you can make it fit within a boundary so that they can get what they need at a certain age, but we cannot stunt growth by not listening to them and developing them. That's on us. That's not on the school.
Yeah.
That's not on the community. That's not on the church. That is on us.
KB, you know what our listeners need to do though? They need to go to tlcbrand.com. Yo, the brand for fathers, by fathers, man. Teach, love, connect. You see Kev with the swag, you see me with the swag. Yo, man, go there, grab your swag, fatherhood over everything. We really do this, y'all. Use the code DADLIFE, 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 20% off your first order. Man, we appreciate you. Aisha Thomas, Master Certified. I don't remember what the title was, and I apologize. Forgive me. I love you.
Senior Master
Sergeant. There we go.
Yo, until next week, man. Y'all take care. Be great. Peace.